Hail Hydra, welcome to another Atomic Mass Transmissions Live. I'm Will Schick, Director of Product Development for Atomic Mass Games, and today we've got the incomparable Baron Strucker, the top dog, if the Red Skull isn't around, of Hydra, with his fancy monocle. So we're going to paint this guy up and just hang out and talk and chat and have a good time for the next hour. So with that, let's just dive right in, because we got plenty of stuff to do on this strapping old man. I don't know, he's pretty old, but you know, he's also not aging because of a death spore virus. It doesn't make any sense. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to find the paint that I pulled for this, which has gone missing. There we go. So looking at Strucker, I'm just going to do the pretty traditional color scheme. So it's a lot of green, a little bit of yellow, and then we're going to do the Gauntlet red with some cool fire effects and make it all look mystical and scary and spooky and stuff. But because we only have an hour, I'm going to use all of my painting hacks. The first one being I'm going to use a speed paint for the green, which is going to be the vast majority of Mr. Strucker's suit. And so we're just going to quickly apply this initial green base over all of the green areas. I'm going to do my best to keep it off of anything that I want to be yellow, just to kind of make my life a little easier, because trying to have the yellow cover up the green, while not impossible to fix, will just take more time. And like I said, we only get an hour together, so let's see if we can get this fine Hydra Man as close to done as we possibly can in the hour. Maybe we'll get him to that tabletop standard, and then we can finish him up with a lot of the fancy dancy stuff later. But for the moment, we'll just get going. Sentinels are very cool. I have no doubt that we'll be painting those in the coming months as we get closer. But yeah, the engineers and the sculptors and everyone like really took it to the next level when it came to this kind of classic Captain America Hydra wave. We had a lot of fun figuring out some of the designs. Red Skull probably being the most intensive and most heated discussion, because we knew we wanted to do something really over the top for the second version of Red Skull. And especially as his like kind of step into epicness as the leader of Hydra, kind of that big unveiling of the Hydra affiliation and everything. So the order of the day was like crazy lightning effects and power. He just needed to be radiating like energy. Needed to be at that moment in the comic where he kind of stands there, the dust is clearing, and now all of a sudden it's like, oh, how do we beat him? That was the level of Red Skullness that we really wanted out of everything. So super fun character to play in the game. Very, very different from kind of core box Red Skull, Cabal leader. You get your little Hydra goons. So if you feel like you've been missing punching out a bunch of poor, honest working henchmen, you have that opportunity now to do so. You can just go ham on those poor boys, and they keep coming back. But yeah, the Sentinels kind of following up after one of the probably the longest engineering and sculpting projects we ever did. Their path to becoming like fully realized miniatures was intense and long and filled with stumbles. But we knew we wanted to do them right. We knew we wanted them to be just as big as possible, as impressive as possible. So we were willing to put in the time and the effort and the redos from time to time to make sure that they came out exactly like we envisioned and wanted. And I'm very excited for folks to eventually get to see how they came together and see the amazing work that Marco and his team did. The sculpts, Evan, particularly when it came to the engineering and the posability of those characters, really went above and beyond. So a lot of cool stuff. And of course, now, if your friends are really into playing those downright dirty mutants, you can now finally live your dreams of robotically saying, "Stop, mutant," and then slowly chasing them. Will you ever update the ban list with reasons why certain cards are banned right now? I mean, justifications are not usually a thing that go on the ban list. We have in the past always done a little article kind of illustrating some of the overall points on the bans and what's hit the list. By and large, it's things that are, constricting player choice and meta development. So a lot of the times, if the best solution to overcoming a card is the card itself, as was the case of Hired Muscle, those cards quickly get on the ban lists. Otherwise, it's a lot of looking at player data and seeing what's going into different lists at different levels of the game. So that includes things like events like NashCon that just happened, or Adepticon, local events and stuff. But it also is really looking at just the general overall player base as well. So, you get really good crunchy data from a lot of the tournaments because those lists get posted and you see what players are doing in that. But we also get a really great view from a lot of the community pages and Discords and stuff on what people are just playing in their normal like game night games or at home and stuff. And all of that stuff works together to create kind of an overall picture of where the game is. And then using that snapshot and that data set, we dive in and we work with testers and internally to kind of identify and determine what's there, what is a problem, what isn't a problem. Sometimes things are considered based on what future releases are going to have, because there may be times where the solution is directly coming in a future product, and so we'll kind of let things play out just a little bit longer or know that things are going on. All right. So our green is down. Fantastic. Very excited about that. Super quick, super easy. We'll go back through and probably add a couple of shades or maybe some highlights and stuff just to kind of pick that out and make it look even fancier. But now I'm going to grab some speed paint. I'm going to dive into that yellow. We're just going to see. I don't think I've ever used, I think I used the yellow speed paint once. I can't remember. It did something, and then I went back in and I kind of mussed with it. So if nothing else, this will just give us a nice little starting point. Oh yeah, I remember now. It's like really light. Okay, easy peasy. We're going to grab maybe this tan. We could do the pink trick, which I have not actually done myself. This should maybe work. Maybe? What's this color look like? No, I don't like that one. All right, I'm just kind of looking for a good color that's close by to use as the base, the undertone for my yellow. And because this is what I got. Ooh, no, that's metallic. It almost would have worked. This will be fine. All right, I'm just going to use some of this tan flesh color because it should give us enough of a foundation to work from. So we're going to give them a skin belt to start, but then we'll quickly go back because this has a lot of pink in it, so it'll kind of do the same thing as undercoating with a pink would, and it'll let that yellow really pop and cover better than it would otherwise. The question is his belt supposed to be like this weird dual thing, or is that just like folded suit cloth? And I think for me, it's going to be folded suit cloth. Yeah, it was fun for those who were able to attend NashCon or watched it online. It was fun to watch how that event unfolded. It looked like it was a really great time. for all the players. And of course, one of the first big appearances of all of the latest releases. So we got to see, Malekith in action over several different tables. I think there was some Winter Guard, if I remember correctly. So those are always fun from a development perspective to kind of like look at any event that happens, your Gen Cons, your Adept Cons. Anytime you can kind of get play data from lists and see how the hype stacks up. Well, that will naturally happen over the course of a release's lifespan. When you get lucky and something like a big event happens right next to a big release, you kind of get to speed up time a little bit. It's like hitting the fast forward button because you get a lot of game data and results right away. And granted, that data is not perfect because it's kind of skewed by the fact of the newness. People are still learning the ins and outs of dealing with, said new releases and how it's going to affect the overall game environment and people's choices, especially when you're playing in a competitive environment. I know this might be contentious, but it's actually healthy to have new releases challenge and force change to a certain extent among lists and play strategies and stuff. Like, that's the whole point. If new releases never changed anything, then what's the point of the new releases outside of, giving people access to their fan favorite character, or maybe just a different team composition, but if that team composition doesn't have anything meaningful behind it, then, is it really doing the work of keeping the game environment healthy and engaging and interesting and stuff? And that's definitely part of the overall evaluation that has to happen as well. As you get going into things, we'll just use this same color that we're using for our yellow base since it's a flesh tone on Strucker's face as well. Because we got it out, we might as well use it. Yeah. All right, let's carefully go around this neck. Try not to get any tan on my greens if I can help it. But that may just be unavoidable with how close his little hood is compared to his neck. We'll do our best. That's all we can do, and then we'll go back and fix the rest. Not a problem. All right. Now, we can dive in and start doing our yellow. Just see how the speed paint will go over it. Okay, so that's going to be too dark, so we're going to actually have to use a real yellow here, which is fine. Maybe the soul yellow, sun yellow. Oh, not if it's like that, though. Shake it harder. All right, let's see what we got in the box here. No, that's gold. That's brown. That's ink. Summer, where are all my yellows? Yeah, they're all gone. We have like 20. We have a whole bunch of primary yellows, but like no ochres. So important to have those ochres. Blob info. Blobfo. No blobfo. There was no discussion about Senior Blob or Pyro. those fine fellows, those Brotherhood Mutantos, they got a little ways to wait. Maybe this peanut butter will work. So normally what I would look for at this point, oh, that's not bad. On my yellows, I don't want to go straight to a primary yellow. I would prefer to go to kind of like an ochre, like a yellow ochre. So I'm going to use this peanut butter and this Soul Yellow from the scale lines to kind of make my own, a little bit of a goldenrod color, I suppose. And my hope here is that I'm going to be able to build this up over my tan nicely, and it's going to let us get to a nice looking primary-ish yellow, but without having to do like 40,000 coats of paint and allowing us to keep everything kind of like smooth. And when you're working with really bright pigments, their translucency goes way up, because the brighter the pigment, typically the weaker it is. So your blues are going to cover the best, and then the brighter you get, like your reds, your yellows, especially as you get to those primary, like really bright colors, they're going to cover the worst, because the pigments just are weaker in general. And so you kind of have to like learn how to work around that, and that's typically by using good undertones and underlayers. Like, you know, with yellow you can use pink. There's a lot of really cool tutorials on how you can use pink as a base coat for your yellows to get them to really pop. You can of course use purple to shade your yellows, but you don't necessarily want to use purple, I think, as an undertone, because the purple is really strong and the yellow is really weak. The pink is also a really soft color for the most part, so the yellow pigment doesn't have as much problem going over it. But because these yellows are like weaker, you can wind up in a situation where you can get a lot of like brush strokes showing, and it can be splotchy because you want it to be thick, but you can't have it be too thick. So it's a lot of coats. So the Hydra stuff is definitely like, it's an homage to a little bit of the classic era. But obviously one of the more modern storylines that I was really thinking about a lot as we worked through the Hydra stuff, because we did want it to be a little more timeless, was the Secret Empire run with, you know, sinister Hydra cap and all the wildness that went along with Hydra taking over the United States and Captain America's betrayal. And because it really, that storyline, as it built up, really had a lot of great scenes and, you know, character development for all the different agents of Hydra. Like, what did they want? What were their motivations? How does Hydra Captain America kind of fit into that, and everything? So, you know, I thought it was a great exploration of Zemo versus, you know, Red Skull versus Strucker versus all these different characters, and how they kind of looked at Hydra and what its goals were and how to achieve it. And Madam Hydra was in there as well. So you got your Viper and stuff. So that was one that was always kind of like in the back of my mind as I worked through this stuff with the rest of the team, was trying to keep some of that more character focused in time. Because, you know, the classics, that silver golden age kind of like iconic, even the animated stuff, Earth's Mightiest Heroes, and the latest Avengers cartoon, which deals with a lot of Hydra and everything. Like, you don't really get a personal look at your villains a lot of the times, right? Like, they're bad guys. So you know they're evil. You kind of know why. They do bad things. And then the hero comes in and saves the day, right? It's very black and white. And I think that storytelling is really important and good. Like, I don't need every villain to be redeemable. In fact, I would argue that not every villain should be. But it is nice every once in a while to kind of get like a deeper view of your bad guys and what they're doing and why, how they interact within the organization, especially, right? As we built out the affiliations and tried to like define roles and looking at team tactic cards and everything. So one of the really fun ones was the one where they're all sitting around the table, dividing up the world, and you can see all the little Hydra markers come in, and you have the entire council, the entire Hydra council, like kind of sitting around, and you know that some of them are really happy with the spoils that they're getting, and some of them are really upset. I always imagine that Zola is never happy with what he's getting. He's like, this is crap. I deserve more. But being able to play some of that character into those things and, make it more than just like the mustache twirling bad guy affiliation helps really set it apart in the game because, I want to play the bad guys. I want to play Hydra from time to time and see if I can take over the world. See if I can do what Red Skull or Strucker failed to do. With a name like Zucker, it's got to be good. I don't know where that came from. It's weird. But the more I think you can get into that narrative and kind of feel that flavor and that theme, the more enjoyment you get out of kind of being there. The more real and fleshed out the characters get. They're more than just stats. So, Secret Empire was great resource, super fun arc. Like, it was definitely the way that it concluded and that run ended. I'm not gonna lie, when I read it the first time, I definitely got like the chills that you get when something really good. You're just like, yes, this is amazing. It felt really right. I was really happy with how they brought that one home. People would be like, oh, it was a cheat. I guess, like a little bit, sort of, kind of, maybe. I don't know. Certainly watching what the creative teams did after, like Coates and everything on the follow-up Captain America solo run did with that setup, I thought it was brilliant. So even if it might have been like the writers kind of getting themselves out of a really difficult situation with, Hydra Cap, the later payoff seemed really genius and felt really good and was fun. So can't recommend it enough. If you haven't read it, take a look. Even if you just read the 6 issue, I think it's just 6 issues. If you just read the Secret Empire standalone arc and you don't go any deeper into like the other side stuff, it's still a very fun series. Like, family dinner at Ultron's house is pretty amazing when it comes down to it. That moment was really great. All right, so our yellows are looking pretty good. Keep messing around with that stuff. Pick out his little yellow braids. I could have done these in more of a golden color, but I figure simpler in this case is not only faster, but it'll really evoke more of that classic styling and look with the very limited color palette so that, you know, your colorist can burn through all the pages and panels of the comic quickly and easily. Okay. All right, going on. Let's go ahead and move over to the Gauntlet. I want that to where's my metal? This will work. So for the Gauntlet, I'm going to do some tinted metallic. So my first step there, it's pretty easy. We just got to get a base coat of metal down on the Gauntlet. And then we'll use probably just our red speed paint to tint the metallic and give us that nice kind of car look. And I would do the same technique on like Iron Man or Hulkbuster, things like that. So doing these colored metallics, no matter which color you pick, the process is basically the same every time. You just lay down your base coat of silver. If you're doing red, one of the things you can do is instead of doing silver, do gold, and that will actually save you some time and headache, because obviously if you put red over white, which silver is a white, it'll turn pink. So depending on the red tint you're using or the red ink or glaze, you might save yourself a lot of time to do gold. Like if you're doing Iron Man and 2, if you base coat them gold first and then put the red over it, Iron Man is typically red and gold, so now you've got your gold already down, so it's kind of like two birds, one stone. But you can do the colors with either. So the green is really simple. It's just the Army Painter Speed Paint Orc Skin. So it's literally just the one color. And I do want to go back and kind of like muss with it a bit, but for the moment, we're going to get all our colors down first, and then we'll start messing around. Do I have that red though, or are we going to do it with an ink? Let's see. Well, we got a purple, but that's not going to be right. Okay. So, since I can't find... Oh, wait. Aha! There we go. It's a little Slaughter Red speed paint. And just kind of quickly throw this over the metallic. You can hopefully on camera see, so we're getting more of a magenta because we're putting this over a silver. So like I said, it's going to pull it a little bit more to that pinkish side as the red speed paint goes over. But we can always do an extra coat, or we can do a red glaze with some ink if we want to pull it back more to that red side. This gives us a really nice, quick and easy red metallic. So it'll feel like the Doom Fist that we want. So I'm going to leave that alone. And like I said, it might be a little magenta-y right now, but when I go back through and do a shade wash of like some red ink, or if I wanted to get really crazy, I could maybe mix a little bit of red and blue to create a crimson. It'll pull it back into that red zone. Yeah, Strucker plays really great with Omega Red, obviously, because of all the conditions and stuff. Great. Okay, we're going to grab... So that can be a pretty fun team. Viper, obviously, I think Viper is a solid character overall, but she definitely finds her forever home with Hydra and Strucker under the leadership, because it just amplifies everything she wants to do in such a nice way. Okay, we're going to do the Hydra belt buckle, which, you know, you get one Hydra belt buckle is assigned to you after you make it 5 years with the organization. So it's prestigious. That's why they all wear one. And then we'll do his little castle badge thing. I don't know what that is. It's there to hold his military decorative braids on, you know. Hit that with the brass. And what I'll likely do for this stuff is I'll go back through and shade it with a violet wash, because that purple will play really nicely with the green, because one of the great ways to shade green is with violet or purple. And you can also shade yellow with purple too. So if we wanted to, we could do a whole like purple wash, glaze over him, and tone back everything effectively. Like we could bring everything down with that purple and kind of use it as our unifying color here. I don't necessarily know if that's what I'm going to do, but it's definitely an option that would work, because all of our colors right now will play very well with purple. And that is kind of neat. Shading green with a purple mixture can lead to some really cool results. Like maybe, you know, to really get that contrast going down where the neck meets the cloth, we could do that purple, and that'll make it nice and deep and dark, and all kinds of options. Okay, let's see. We're going to take some Zealot Yellow. We'll do the fire on his fist, his Doom Fist. I thought we had an orange, but maybe I made that up. That's okay. So we're just going to go over the entirety of the flame with our yellow. So this is just the speed paint yellow, just for some quick and easy starts. And then if you're painting fire, the thing to remember about flames, if you want them to look natural, is that they are hottest at their base and coldest at their tops. And what that means from a color perspective is that your brightest colors, your lightest colors are going to be in the center or closer to the base, and your coldest colors are going to be towards the top. So you want your bright yellows, your whites, all that stuff to be at the bottom of your flames, where the main heat of the flame is, and then you want it to get darker as you go to the top. So in this case, what I would do is, with my yellow now laid down, I could just start wet blending in some reds away from the fist where it's going to get cooler. You can kind of take this as far as you want. So like with an explosion or something like that, that wasn't like a living flame, you might take some black or some gray and go in there towards the tips. We could even do that here if we really wanted to make the flame look like it was significantly cooling on its way towards the top. Blending with speed paints is a little interesting just because they're very flowy. So you're gonna have to make sure that they don't run away from you. But you can get some pretty cool effects if you work it. So I'll kind of just let that dry. I'm gonna go back through and mess with it some more. Is the Gauntlet going to get 360 views for these characters? It will, yeah. I don't know when those will all go up. Summer would, but I don't know if she's talking right now. She might chat in the chat. But yeah, every character will have a 360 go up. And I think we're just going to do like a basic decay black for coloring out the logo on his chesty chest. Yeah, it seems great. Cool, cool, cool. All right. So, start working on his Hydra logo here, his skull and his chest. We'll start with this decay black, and then we'll kind of highlight up as we go. Pick out more of those details. And here the big trick is just to be careful to not get any of our yellows that are underneath. So this isn't too hard to do because everything's raised for the logo. So you just kind of go slow, use the edge of the brush. Make sure that your paint is not super thin. So you want it to have a pretty good stick to it. It'll do the trick for you. And again, the big thing here whenever you're doing detail like this, to make it kind of like as easy as possible on yourself, is instead of using the tip of the brush or use the edge of the brush, the flat of the brush as some people call it. And that way you'll be less likely to have it mush into your recesses. And it's a lot easier to have it just hit the raised areas that you want. So this technique is a classic for edge highlighting and any kind of like standard base coat wash, base coat shade highlight kind of approach where you're doing a lot of that edge highlighting and everything. Because it gives you so much control over not having your paint go where you don't want it. And since you only want it on the raised areas anyway, anything that makes it really difficult for the paint to run into those recesses is fantastic. And then if you make a little bit of a mistake like I just did, you just go back in with a slightly damp brush and tighten up your edges. Easy peasy. All right, so we've got that now colored out. And the big trick here is going to be to go back in and highlight up with the gray so that all the details and the raised areas, because black obviously will push, dark colors will push backwards. So we need to make sure that we're doing proper highlighting to push that logo, which is on top of the yellow, properly forward. Get his little monocle eye patch thing here blacked out. And we'll see what we can do. Let's grab, sure, why not? Resurrection Flesh, just because it's right here. We'll work on his noggin. And then we'll grab a little bit of whatever this is, Harvester Flesh. Yeah. And through. Tip the nose, under the eyes, get the ears, get around the jaw. Start highlighting up the features of the face. Just use our second brush to kind of like blend out our colors here. So obviously the top of the head is gonna get all the light and be a little bit brighter. Tips of the ears. Looks like the cheeks right under the eyes. Chin, those classic like places you want to highlight when you're doing faces to make them really pop out. Mix that up. So I'm just taking my resurrection flesh and my harvester flesh, and I'm kind of like making a little mid-tone mix. So that we can go back in and do some more highlights. Great. Okay, let's grab maybe some intense crimson. Do we have some intense? So I want to do a really quick red wash on the Gauntlet if I can find some red ink. Somewhere, maybe. I swear it was out here yesterday. There we go. All right. Grab a little bit of that, and then if we can find a little blue ink, maybe not blue. Oh, wait, there we go. All right, so a little bit of red, a little bit of blue. Because blue is a fantastic shade for basically any color, but especially reds will work well. Kind of go a little bit to pull it a little bit towards purple. Kind of should look sort of like drying blood for a nice little visual there. We're just going to put this wash over everything so we get in those nice cracks and crevices. Pull it off that bicep because we don't want it there. Okay, we'll let that dry. And let's go back to the chest logo. A little bit of Arctic blue. Mix in with our decay black. Start making a nice blue gray. Highlight everything up. And we're just going to start building our layers here. As far as like time frames for seeing more info on the Sentinels, it's going to be closer to the end of this year. So like fall-ish. So, a little ways to go because we got to kind of like right in the middle of getting prepped for Hydra and the latest Shield stuff, new Captain America, everything like that. Release. And then from there, we'll kind of like roll from that right into the next wave of mutant stuff, which includes the Sentinels and Blob and Pyro and all of that stuff. And then whatever's next. So much excitement. Plus, I think summer still has a thing to surprise everybody with, I was told. But I don't know what it is, so I'm curious. I was told, I think last week, that there was still like one more thing that was going to get revealed. But I don't know what that was. I should make her tell me after this. But I kind of like not knowing. I just want to try to push those like teeth and stuff. So right under the eyeball. Kind of like edge right under the eye sockets. And then push out those teeth. Hit some of those tentacle edges. There, that right there. A little bit down there. Here we go. Okay, let's take our Zealot Yellow. So I'm going to grab some yellow speed paint now. I'm just really quickly going to go over our yellow, or I'll just throw my brush on the ground like a monster. And this will just add a little bit of shading to our color. Bring it back around a little bit. So I'm kind of just using the speed paint as a wash at this point. But it also really richens up our colors. And if we decide it takes it down a little bit too much, we'll just go back over it with some more yellow, but we can do that later. And like these little general tassel things. Those, that'll give us some nice shading in there. And we could use flesh wash for this if we wanted to. Flesh washes work really good for yellows, although it'll make them pretty dark. Obviously a sepia will work really well. So there's plenty of options. You can even use it just to pick out the metallics as well. All right, okay, come around. But this will be a really easy way to put that last little finish on our tabletop guy. And then touch these in there just to give those yellow spots a bit more depth. There. And just go over the flames one more time with our yellow. Just kind of like pick everything back out. All right. Well, you got to have if you don't have the big belt buckle with the H, how are people going to know where you belong? All of the cool Hydra agents are wearing it, so, you know, it's the style now. It's the style. Let's see. I don't know if we have any flesh wash. I don't think we do. So we might just leave Mr. Strucker's skin tone the way it is, because I don't think there's going to be any way to quickly finish it up today. Oh, there we go. Skin wash. What a beautifully generic and who knows kind of name. Oh, that looks really dark. We'll try it though. Let's just see what happens. Okay. Let's see how this quote-unquote skin wash works for us. Just want to get a little bit of that shadow back because we never did pull everything up, especially around like the mouth and the lips and the chin and the eyeballs and his little angry brow. Got that serious face going on. And like where the temples are and stuff. The jawline right under the base of the skull. There. Kind of pulled things together a little bit, gave us a bit of shading. All right. So with that, boom. There's our 1 hour work on Strucker. Overall, with the base being done, this guy would be ready for some tabletop play. There's still more stuff that I would love to do on him, and I'm probably going to go back on. Like, I'm going to really start to amp up the green base that we have from the speed paint. I'm going to add a layer of wash, really shade that down. Then I'll start going through and adding some more highlights and some little scritches to kind of show that depth and the texture of the fabric. But those are all things that you can do. They're definitely not things that you have to do. Like, as this is, we've got really good and solid looking miniature that's ready to go enact Hydra world domination on the table. So with that, thank you so much for joining us. Hope you had a great time. Thanks for hanging out. We will be back next week, maybe. Watch for more info. We have some guests coming to the office, so there's a possibility that we'll be off on streams until the following week. But there'll be more information for that as we get closer to that timeline. If not, you can tune back in every Tuesday, Wednesday, 1 p.m. Pacific. We'll see you on the next one. Stay good to everybody, and goodbye. There we go. That's it. 2 of these in a row. I can't close both. I ran out of stuff. I was so close, and then I just blew it. But, you know, that's how it works.